Schmidt, and it's math time again. Today I'm going to explain some more things about fractions, and especially equivalent fractions. Well, remember that equivalent is another word for equal or the same, and I'm going to show some examples of equivalent fractions, and I bet you will notice some patterns going on. Equivalent fractions are just different ways of talking about the same thing. And you're going to notice that I've drawn some bars here that are pretty much the same. In order for some fractions to be equivalent or equal to each other, they need to be referring to the same size of a whole bar. This first one, the orange bar, is cut into two pieces, and we call each one is 1/2. Now if I show you the next bar, you'll see that we still have the bar cut into halves, but each half is also cut into smaller pieces, and those are each 1/4 of the whole. And if you only look at the top two bars, you'll see that 1/2 in the very first one is exactly the same size as two pieces that are each 1/4. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. Moving to the next orange bar, we've got smaller and smaller pieces. We talked about at school that if the denominator has a bigger number, that means there are more pieces and they're all smaller. Because if you're going to have a lot of pieces in the same amount of space, the pieces have to be little. So big number in the denominator means little tiny pieces. Let's count how many tenths it takes to make 1/2, which is also equivalent to 2/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths is equivalent to 2/4 and 1/2. Now the last fraction bar isn't cut into such tiny pieces. We've got 3 of these, which are the same as 5 tenths and 2/4 and 1/2. These are 3 pieces, each one is 1/6 of the whole bar. And when I write all these equivalent fractions together with equal signs in between, it looks like this. 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, and they're both equivalent to 5 tenths. All of these are exactly the same thing as talking about 3/6, as long as our whole part, our whole item, is always the same size as it is drawn here. Let's look at some more examples of equivalent fractions. Here I've drawn a blue bar, and it's cut into 3 equal pieces. Each equal piece is called 1/3. And today for this example, we're going to pay attention to 2 of the thirds of this bar. We can see that 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. When we cut each little piece, again, we have 6 altogether, and 4 of those 6 pieces are equivalent to 2/3. Moving down on the page, now the bar is cut into 9ths, and we've got 6/9, which equal 4/6, and that's also the same amount as 1/3, as long as we're talking about the same size of a whole bar. We can cut our parts, we can cut our whole any way we'd like to, and we can examine that certain ways of cutting will give us equivalent fractions. The last one on this page has some even smaller pieces. That means there are lots of them, and the denominator is going to be a higher number. These parts are 12ths, and in each third of this bar there are 1, 2, 3, 4 12ths. It takes 4 more 12ths to make 2/3. And when we show all the equivalent fractions for this example, it looks like this. 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6 and 6/9, and also 8/12. I'm guessing that you're noticing some number patterns as we talk about equivalent fractions. Here's our last group of examples. Now I've chosen to draw this one towards the center or moved over on the whole bar, just to illustrate that it doesn't matter where in the whole you're talking about. Equivalent fractions can be anywhere as long as the whole is the same size. We'll imagine that I've drawn this green bar once again right underneath. It's another copy of the green bar. This time it's cut into fourths, but all of the fourths are also cut. And we'll count the parts. 3 parts here, 3 more, 3 more, and 3 more. We know that makes 12 parts. And if you look at the equivalent part, 3/12 are equivalent to 1/4. The next example has a different kind of cut, just like we've done before. Oh, those are 1/8 of the whole bar. 1/4 is equivalent to 3/12 and also 2/8. Here comes the last one. If we cut it again into even smaller pieces, we have each piece is 1/16. You can see that number in the denominator is a higher number. That means lots more pieces. So the pieces are tiny. 1/16, another 3, and 4/16 are equivalent to 2/8 and 1/12 and 1/4. And here's how it looks if we write them all together. 1/4 is equivalent or equal to 3/12 and 2/8 and 4/16. That's all you need to know about equivalent fractions. Doesn't matter which kind of numbers you use, as long as they equal the reference part, in order for those to be equivalent fractions. There are lots of different ways to cut things so that their parts, you can use more parts or fewer parts to make something that would be equal to a certain thing. I know this fraction stuff is exciting and we'll keep working with it. I think it's lots of fun. Remember to be kind, and I'll see you at school.